Shall we start?
I think we should start.
Just Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangai Stuštuvagam Sastanobhih Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuh Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedah Swasti nastarkshyo Arishtanemih Swasti no Brihaspati Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we will be discussing something regarding the Navagrahas and how it is related to our continuing topic. So the background I'll give. In the Bhagavad Gita, we saw Bhagavan talks about the different devas and how one can nurture the devas and they nurture you, and then mutually you nurture yourself and move ahead towards success. Now, it may appear, and especially there are some texts which do mention and create this confusion. It appears as if there is one Ishvara, and then he created some agents, some 33 crore agents, and then he asked, he is the main mafia person, and then he asked that, okay, now you deal with my agents, you bribe them, and they in turn will take care of you. And if you face some problem, then you come to me, otherwise you deal with them. And then there are certain texts in the spiritual magazines and all, they say, why you have to go through the devas? You directly reach the Lord, directly reach the Ishvara. No need to go through all devas and all. So this creates such a big confusion. Really speaking, some people get so frustrated out of this theory that they look for some other religions and move ahead. They go even, they try Buddhism, Jainism or some otherism. So to remove this confusion, I thought, let me take up this topic in depth. And there is no such thing as one God and then his agents called devas, and then you have to deal with the devas, and then to reach that God, you have to move through them in these intermediaries. All this is, without understanding. Actually, as I said, devas are a personified forms assigned to the different universal forces, universal laws which govern the universe. And how it works, and because there are innumerable universal forces and innumerable laws which governs the universe, and therefore there are innumerable devatas. So we will take up a bunch of devatas which are closest to us and which are popular during these contemporary times. And we will see how it is not that they are agents, they are intermediaries and blocking our way towards Ishvara. All this is not correct. Can you, Rajeshji, can you please open that link?
Yeah, sure.
I was just looking for different web pages, and this one I found will be more useful. So this is one of the popular sites in the temples in the south. Even in the north, you will find Navagrahas, and we do parikrama around the Navagrahas after visiting the main deity. And we must know the significance of all this, because assuming that you are one of the parents whose child is coming to these Arshavidya classes, Rajeshji, am I right?
Yeah, some of them.
During,
yes.
Yeah, some of them. And they may ask you as parents that what are Navagrahas? Why do we worship them? If we are worshipping one god, then why so many gods? All this, these questions may come up. So unless we have in-depth understanding, we will not be able to really explain them or customize an answer suitable to the age of the child. Because to customize an answer to a lower level requires a lot of understanding and in a higher depth. Then only you can cut out unnecessary things, and what is useful for the child, that much you give. But unless we ourselves are not aware of the knowledge, the facts behind what is happening in depth, it becomes very difficult to customize the answers. So these are the Navagrahas. Before we talk about the Navagrahas, we have to understand there is something called subtle force. Even though we tend to dismiss or ignore subtle things, and again, this is a paradox of life. On one hand, we give too much importance to grosser things, where we can see, we can feel, things are tangible. There is a cause-effect relationship which is visible to us. Those are the things we accept very easily. But when the cause and effect relationship is not clearly visible, we tend to dismiss it. We tend to think it's a belief. Whether you believe or you don't believe, it hardly matters, etc. And we ignore those things. At the same time, okay, this is the analytical self I'm talking of. At the same time, this same analytical person at times believes in prayers, believes in good wishes. On anniversary day, on a birthday, on some happy occasion, why do you say happy Diwali, happy birthday, or happy anniversary? What's so happy about it? Birthday is really a sad day, because that means you are reminded one more year is gone from your life. So why do we add this happy thing, and why do we give good wishes to them? Why wishes? Wishes has no meaning. Just because you wish something will happen, there is no guarantee. But we do that. And on the other hand, we dismiss subtle connections, and certain upayas. Upayas mean certain methodology by which you can invoke the devatas and influence them or ask for their influence, in a positive influence in life. We try to dismiss, oh, all this I don't believe. I don't know whether it happens or it doesn't happen. Why even this? Let us get into the most basic of subtle things, which we deal with it every day, whether I am an atheist, a believer, in non-believer, or half-believer. How many of us have seen gravitational force? Tell me. Anyone? No one. Since I don't see it, it doesn't exist. Can I jump out of my window from the first floor or even fifth floor? First floor, nothing much may happen. In India, it's 10 feet. 10 feet, I mean, some small injury might have. But fifth floor, can I jump just because I don't see the gravitational force? In fact, none of us could see gravitational force, and they can't see gravitational force, only its effect we can see. And yet we believe in gravitational force. All the satellites are being launched because of that belief system. And not only launching, the satellites keep on rotating, they're revolving around the Earth, is because of the knowledge of that gravitational force. So just because you cannot see something, it doesn't exist. It's a very silly thing. All the radio waves which we get, none of them are visible. But there are special antennas which catch them, and then they convert it into some other signals, and we get as sound waves. Even our the Zoom through which we are talking, it's all waves. None of us can see all these radio waves. But can we say it doesn't exist? Come on, we are just conversing based on these subtle things. So subtle things do exist. Just because something is beyond my five senses, it doesn't exist, is silly. Or something is beyond some instruments which my five senses can understand, and then it doesn't exist. That is also silly. In fact, all the hypotheses, and gravitational force is one such force. Why gravitational force? Even the electromagnetic forces, they are all subtle forces. You cannot see how a positive charge, and there's the attraction between a positive charge and a negative charge. Nobody can see. They can see the effect of attraction, that they come together. But what is happening in between, nobody can see. But it does happen. So we do believe in subtle forces, whether we like it or not. Only thing is, if we have made it a fashion that certain types of subtle forces we do accept, and certain others we choose to ignore or dismiss without even examining. That is very silly. That is a fanatic mind or an uneducated mind. Okay. So subtle things do exist. Subtle forces do exist. Prayers do work. Good wishes and all, even bad wishes do work. Okay. And that is why we have what we call as drishti dosha. In every culture, there is some way by which they say that somebody's evil eye must have affected your well-being. So they have some methods in the homes, even at the homes. I mean, when somebody is falling sick without any reason, then they will burn something in the house, or they will turn things over the head and then put it in fire, etc. And almost every culture has it. So even bad wishes do exist, and they do have effects. Similarly, good wishes exist, and they do have effects. So we cannot ignore all of them. Now, how these devatas, the concept of devatas, and then that they affecting our lives, how we are intertwined in this web of this cosmos. This is something so interesting. And this is what I am trying to bring out through this topic of Navagrahas. So, astrology is also one of the studies, one of the allied scriptures of the Vedas, one of the six allied scriptures. Jyotisham is one of them, and it deals with the Navagrahas and how it affects our lives, and how there is a predictability, and how one can overcome some difficulties and some other difficulties cannot be overcome. And this same concept of Jyotisham is used by Ayurveda. Ayurveda is another one of the allied scriptures of the Vedas. And it deals with the health aspect, but then it definitely pays attention to the effect of the grahas. Grahas are planetary bodies. Most of them are planetary bodies. And we are all familiar with them. The Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the weekdays, 7 weekdays are the names given based on the grahas: Sun, Moon, Mars, then Wednesday, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. Then there are 2 nodes, nodal planets. They are not actually planets. They are just intersection of the motion of the moon and the sun, keeping Earth as the center. Okay. So assuming Earth to be at the center and the movement of sun and moon with reference to Earth is then there are intersection paths, and they are called Rahu and Ketu. Then they are also called Chaya Grahas, not actual Grahas, but pseudo Grahas, but they do have their own effects. Now, how do they affect? Let us just examine. All of us know this word lunatic, correct? Lunatic means what? Somebody who is mad, correct? Now, lunatic word has come from lunar. Lunar means moon, okay? So, a person who gets affected or adversely affected because of the moon, and the mind is not working, the person is called lunatic. So this is a Western concept. But when we come to the Vedas, we again find Chandrama Manaso Jataha, Chaksho Suryo Ajayata. So the mind is born, the Chandrama, the moon was born out of the divine person, the Purusha. From his mind, the moon was born, just to show the connection between moon and the universal mind. And universal mind consists of minds of all the people. So moon affects mind very much. This is very well known, even among the psychologists, and especially those dealing with people of lunatic behavior. Especially during the full moon day, the patients with mental disorders, their symptoms aggravate. Okay. So, and moon, we know it affects the tides, different tides, and because of its position, the water gets pulled, and we have high tide and low tide. And that watery content, that pull, affects the brain, and because of that, our thinking gets affected. So now you can see how the influence of moon affects the minds of different creatures, including human beings. Similarly, the gravitational pull of different planets in different locations have effects on our bodies, our well-being, and then accordingly, uh, our bodies function or they show some symptoms, and we try to counteract those symptoms through some other means, or we try to minimize the effects by some other means using methods of Ayurveda as well as astrology. Can we scroll down a little bit, please? So in this model of Navagrahas, it is assumed that Earth is the center because things are happening with reference to Earth, and physics very well allows it. You can take anything as stationary, and with reference to that stationary thing, other things may be moving. That's a relative motion. So Earth is at the center, and all other planets are moving around the Earth in different paths. And Sun being the primary one, because it's the largest and it's the energy giver. So it affects in various different ways, not only through its gravitational pull, but even also because of its light and heat, whatever energy it gives, and different other radiations, which we can't see, but which affects our lives. So sun is the primary, they name it as graha. And then you see how translation creates problems. First, you translate graha as this. This is what I used to encounter during my childhood. So first, they will translate graha as planet, okay, which is not true, because graha is graha, planet is planet. It so happens that some of the grahas are planets. Then they say if graha is planet, then Surya also is a graha. We say yes. So Surya is supposed to be a planet. Now we are stuck because Surya means sun. Sun is not a planet, it's a star. Then they say, how unscientific your Jyotisham is. But tell me, who asked you to first to translate Graha as planet? Graha is Graha. This is a different model. Any planetary, any heavenly body which is close to Earth and which is directly affecting our lives, we are calling it Graha. Don't first translate it as planet and then pick holes in our scriptures. It is just like first saying dharma means religion. Who said dharma is religion? Dharma is dharma. Religion can be loosely translated as faith or something. There's nothing called, we didn't have a concept called religion. They will translate Atma as soul, and then they will say, you say animals have Atma, but we say the animals don't have soul. The Bible doesn't say so. Who asked you to translate Atma as soul? First, I suppose, sorry Rajesh ji, just I'm taking liberty. I translate Rajesh ji as Robert ji and then create problems. No, can there be a translation of Rajesh, a one-word translation? It's just impossible. You can explain the word Rajesh, Rajanam Ishaha, whatever. You can explain it, but there is no one-word translation in English. It is not possible. So first I translate it and then create problems, then ask questions, silly questions. So there are no translations. Graha is Graha. Graha are heavenly bodies close to the earth, who are affecting the lives on the earth very much. And we choose them, 9 of them, and they are the grahas. Over. Can we proceed further? Just scrolling up. Yeah. So the Surya Graha, the sun. Okay, a little bit more. Remember, everything is with reference to Earth. When we say with reference to Earth, it means Earth is stationary, other things are moving. Okay, and physics very much allows this relative motion. Don't say sun is stationary, Earth is moving. Yes, you can take that as a reference point, and even that is fine. But is the sun stationary? Even the sun is moving with reference to some other star or some other reference point. So there is not a problem as per physics. Anything can be taken as stationary as a reference point, and all other things can move with reference to that reference point. And nobody says everything is moving around the Earth. No, need not be. They may be moving around the Earth, or they may be taking some elliptical path or a spiral path or some other path. That is fine. Okay. So Surya is a graha. That graha represents certain things. So it is a devata. What are the things it represents? Please scroll up. Yeah. Can we? No, we cannot zoom it. No. Okay, fine. Doesn't matter. So the sun represents strength, power, ego, leadership qualities, ambition. It also represents father in a family. It also represents heart, head, blood, bones, body temperature. And they have missed a very, very significant point. It represents the eyes. Chakshoho Suryo Ajayatah. From the universal eye, the universal Purusha, the eye of the universal Purusha gave birth to the sun. So eyes and sun are very much connected, yes. So they have missed out one point, and that is eyes. And of course, heart is very much part of it. It is influenced by sun. So somebody whose heart is, say, afflicted, or whose eyes are afflicted, then as per astrology, what they will suggest? They will suggest you pray to the sun god. Okay, and that will help you. You offer water to the sun god every Sunday, especially in a copper plate, etc., or in a copper vessel, because copper is also connected with sun. Red ruby, etc. Now, what will Ayurveda say? Ayurveda will also say similar thing. If your eyes are affected, fine, we'll give you medicine. Now, sometimes the medicines are made out of these gems. Okay, bhasma. It is called bhasma, and these gems, even medicine can be made out of ruby. And that may affect your eyes or even your heart. And then there are other medicines which are related to sun, and which are also related to the different ailments which are connected to the sun. So this is how Ayurveda, the treatment is aligned as per astrology. Now, how these grahas affect our well-being? One is the natal chart. Natal chart means at the time of birth, what were the positions of different grahas in our solar system. The combination of those grahas, the combination of those different gravitational forces, okay, and mind it, all of them are moving. A moving body has its own way of sending the gravitational signals to our Earth. Okay, and this has been with experiments, it has been shown that how moving body affects the time and space due to its gravitation. And they have even shown it through curved space and time graphs. So, and it is more than gravitational force. Gravitational force is one which we have recognized and which is very subtle, but its effect is visible, but we cannot see a gravitational force. There are other forces or rays or whatever you want to call, which are emitted by these grahas, which may not be known to us, but which does affect us. And that is shown in this Jyotisham and in Ayurveda. And we try to adjust the things accordingly. So at the time of birth, the different forces which are working produce a body which is prone to certain things. Okay. So for example, at the time of birth, if the sun is afflicted means adversely impacting a person, then we will find this child will have problems either in the eyes or in the heart or with the blood or the bones, etc. Now, to compensate that, what do we do? They will suggest you pray to the sun god, and these are the prayers for the sun, and you offer this copper, you donate copper, you donate wheat, and etc. etc. And similarly, Ayurveda will also give certain medicines, and it will also recommend the same measures what the Jyotisham says. And this is how people get benefited. And I know one doctor, okay, in Chandigarh, Mohali area. He and his wife, they are like they have this what we call, they are panel doctors for the Australian embassy and the Canadian embassy and the New Zealand embassy. You understand, the panel doctors for when one person applies for a visa or long-term visa or a PR, permanent residency and all, then they have to go through certain tests. And these are the authorized doctors. So they belong to that category. And the husband had this problem with the eyes, something which the other doctors couldn't cure. So finally, he had to resort to prayers of the Lord Sun. And he did for 2 years, and then he regained the sight. He's a doctor. He knows medicine. He knows other specialists. He knows other doctors. And his eyes were not cured with all the means. And they were cured only by the prayers to the sun god. And it's not that he's, he can drive, that much eyesight he has got, but fine print reading and all, that is very difficult for him. He can do it, but then the eye gets strained and then it gets swollen and so many problems come out. But it is functional. So this is one of the examples I can give, how prayers can affect my body through the Devata. Do you understand? So Devata is not something, a person, an agent of the God. It is something which is in and through me, flowing through me. And we have given a personified form in the form of sun. So the sun, the effect of sun is there in everybody. The effect of moon is there in everybody. The effect of Mars is there in everybody. Okay? The effect of Jupiter is there. Can you scroll down? So moon, then Mars affects the courage part, the manliness, and what other things? Can you move a little further? Yeah. Yeah, enough. Little. Yeah. Mars is for bravery, for Paurusham. Paurusham, the strength, courage. All those things are represented by Mars. So somebody who is, whose Mars is very strong, they will say that he will go in the military, or he will be inclined to go into military services or police services, or even administrative services. Similarly, Mercury. Mercury represents our capacity of communication, logic, mathematics, poetry, and so on and so forth. So speech, oratory skills. So these are governed by Mercury. So somebody whose Mercury is afflicted, that person may be stammering. So a person who stammers, then as per Jyotisham, astrology, they will recommend methods to propitiate Mercury, Mercury god. Propitiate Mercury god means what? Propitiate that principle which governs the speech part, and through that they try to minimize the impact of stammering. Okay. Then Jupiter. Jupiter represents wisdom, knowledge, spirituality, somebody who can give advice, a teacher, etc. So they say a person with a good placement of Jupiter in the chart, that means who's in whom the grace of Jupiter is more, or the Jupiter is well placed, many different doshas created by other grahas, they get cancelled. Why do they say so? Because a person who is open to right advice can overcome so many difficulties of life, so many handicaps. Whereas a person who is closed-minded, who will not listen to the right advice, or for whom the right advice appears to be wrong and the wrong advice appears to be the right one. Okay, such a person, we say the Jupiter's grace is not there, and so the person will suffer. Naturally, logically, we can understand. When right appears wrong and wrong appears right to a person, can that person be saved from any problem? No way. Whenever something, even he or she falls sick, and the right doctor gives the right medicine, the person will refuse or will not take the regular intervals or create shortcuts. The person will not get cured. So that's how. So when a person has this kind of a problem, Jupiter is afflicted, then they pray to the Jupiter god. Means again they are playing to the Almighty in the form of Jupiter, so that the person is open for right knowledge, right guidance, right kind of wisdom. Next, Venus or Shukra. Shukra is also called a teacher, okay, teacher for the Asuras, because Shukra represents guidance, but through bhoga. You see, Jupiter represents guidance through yoga, whereas Shukra represents guidance, etc., through bhoga. So a person who is given to bhogas and who is not open, who is not a sattvic person, who has a lot of demoniac tendencies, yet has some shraddha and wants to improve, then what they say, okay, through bhogas, continue with the bhoga, but then you keep adding something, right thing in your life, and try to achieve your happiness. So Shukra represents that. Shukra also represents the reproductive system and pleasure, sexuality, etc., etc. So somebody whose Shukra is afflicted, it may lead to impotence and difficulty in giving birth to a child, etc. These problems do exist. And then we propitiate Shukra that principle of the universe and pray for having a nice progeny. Next. Saturn represents laziness, mental slowness, discipline, hardship, losses, misfortune. And all these things are important because sometimes we don't learn till we are hit badly. Saturn gives us an opportunity to start thinking in a different way. Otherwise, we have our own set of ideas, own set of assumptions, own set of theories, and we stop listening to anything different, anything which is told, which is different from, which doesn't match my thinking. We try to close our ears to it. When that changes or could change, the possibility happens when we are in a very difficult situation, all our assumptions fail, and that is the time we get a shock, and possibly we are open to new thinking. So shock, trauma, misfortune, losses, suffering gives us an opportunity to rethink our basic assumptions and basic thought processes and try to align with the reality. So that way, Saturn helps us in changing things. Okay, and it also represents strong discipline. It also represents justice. So that is how, I don't know, but all over the world it is like that. Saturn represents black, and all the justice related matter, advocates, judges, etc., they wear black traditionally. Okay, just as that lunar thing, lunatic, lunar, moon, mind, Chandrama, Manasa. Okay, Western, Eastern, in both the philosophies we find similarities. Similarly, it happens with Saturn. Judges, justice, Saturn, black, all of them, they go together. Then Rahu and Ketu. Rahu is something which is expansive, diffusive. It diffuses the things, it confuses the things. And Ketu is constrictive. It makes us withdraw, becomes close-minded, up to a point of being a close-minded person, etc. All these things can happen with Ketu. And then when it goes beyond a point, then we again propitiate those principles of this universe in the form of Rahu or in the form of Ketu to alleviate the problems. So now you understand the different aspects of this universe and how they influence our lives, our bodies, our minds, etc. And how we propitiate those principles by giving a personified form and then try to alleviate or reduce the effects, unwanted effects, or increase the wanted effects in our lives, and we fine-tune our lives accordingly. And so this is how we propitiate the devatas, we interact with them, they are intertwined in our lives, in the web of our life, in the web of this universe, and we fine-tune and live with them in a manner which is a balanced one and which is helpful to us. So this is the way of living along with the devas, propitiating the devas, and then getting their blessings and living an optimal life. Optimal life may not be the perfect life, but whatever is possible, the best possible within the given circumstances. That's what we call as the optimal life. So these are the Navagrahas. Similarly, they are the devatas. Then there are other devatas for different other things, and one can propitiate and change things accordingly. Okay, so this is the concept of devatas, correct? So devatas are not agents like we have in temples in India. They are pandas. Okay, so to have darshan of Bhagwan, you have to hire a guide or a panda, and then the panda will take you and have for you to have darshan of the Lord. It's not like that. These devatas are very much the life principles which affect our lives, and they have been given a personified form and a way to propitiate them and fine-tune our lives accordingly. So with this, in brief, I have given the whole picture of the devatas and the subtle effects and how subtle things do affect our lives. And the paradox, certain subtle things we subscribe to, whereas the certain others we ignore or we dismiss. And no reason. Just because we are habituated doing that. So one has to think on those things. Open for questions. Anybody having any questions, please? Before we conclude. Yeah.
Because first time I came to know about Rahu and Ketu in the physical terms,
Right.
I had the confusion about that too for a long time, right? Same as why they are not planet, then why it is in this Jyotisha.
Correct.
So thanks for clarifying that.
Right. They are the combined effects of sun and moon working together.
Yeah.
So there's a vector sum of the gravitational forces of both of them and how it affects the earth.
That was something new to me today.
Yeah. Any question? Anybody?
Pranam Navneetji, it's Anil. Just a quick comment, and I do understand the very in-depth study and knowledge that's required in this topic. So I know you briefly covered a lot of things, but what are your comments when we, at a younger age, have brushed aside these type of things under the fear of a perception of fear or suspicion? How do we overcome that?
Well, the fear got generated because of lack of proper understanding. Correct? I am asking you. Yeah. So,
yes, that's true.
So the only antidote to that is the right understanding. Now, when this kind of knowledge, what we discussed today about the Navagrahas, when that thing happens, then now if we worship the Navagrahas, we understand that it is just like you want to worship your tulsi plant or your lemongrass. What's wrong in that? I don't know lemongrass is grown there or not in your place because of the cold weather. But you have your own surroundings where certain things grow which are useful, and then you protect it and you propitiate it. And grahas are like that. So only thing is, instead of fear, we do it with more respect. That's all. The fear part goes away, but the respect part do remain, and that is born out of understanding. So the more we try to go in depth and understand things, the fear part will go away. And actually it's the reaction. Because of that fear, we want to dismiss the whole thing, so that the fear also is gone along with that concept of grahas and devatas, etc. But it is not like that. Things are much more deeper and much more intricate and much more, I will say, close to us, unavoidable. So when that understanding comes, can we avoid moon, sun from our lives? Okay, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. we cannot see without our telescopes and all. But sun and moon definitely we see every day. Can we avoid them? No, we cannot. So we have to live with it. So then how do I live? I align my life as per the movements of sun and moon. And we do it all the time. You see, the class shifted by 1 hour. It is all because of movement of sun. Isn't it? We do align. So that's prudence. It's not like we are afraid of the sun god and that's why we change the time of the class. It's not like that. There's a day saving time. The time zone changes. The time zone actually changes by 1 hour from here to there. And that's prudence. That's practicality. That's by understanding. There is no fear. When that can happen, even this can happen. Praying to the Navagrahas, propitiating, and aligning our lives according to them. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was also thinking more in terms of suspicion or misreading certain things, or there are powers and things happen. So I thought they were not in our control, and that's what I was thinking of more.
They are not directly under our control, but the scriptures have shown us the way to control them. Again, the word control is, it's a Western concept. We don't control. We align. We ask them to align with us and we ourselves align with them. It is just like, you must have heard of that famous quote from the Red Indian. The earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to this earth. Have you heard this quote?
Not really, no.
No. Please search this quote on the internet and you will get the whole paragraph. The Western concept is the earth belongs to us. We exploit the resources of this earth and then we take control of the things and then we enjoy our lives. Whereas the Red Indian chief who gave the things, the whole thing is given to us and we belong to this earth. The earth doesn't belong to us. So we don't own the land. The land owns us. And that's a very different way of thinking and living. There's no exploiting. The word of exploiting the resources of earth is gone. It becomes the use of resources provided to us by Mother Earth. So there is a reverence, there is a humility. In the other one, there is a control, there is a power. Here, again, we are doing the same thing, but the attitude changes from power, control to humility and surrender.
Thank you. Thank you, Navneetji. That clears up.
Any other question? Okay, then we stop here.
Yeah, sure.
Om Sahana Bhavatu. Sorry. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you.